What happens when bad weather may be heading our way? We'll find out on this episode of The Inside Scoop. Hello and welcome back to The Inside Scoop. I'm David Owen. You know, weather here in Georgia can be tricky to forecast. In the fall, it's what's the track of that hurricane going to be? In the winter, it's kind of what we had recently. Is it going to be snow, an ice storm? Is it going to be clear blue skies? In the springtime, we get to find out if those thunderstorms are going to get really bad or if tornadoes are going to show up. These and other weather-related threats can create conditions that put our students and staff at risk. Though we don't have a chief meteorologist on staff, we do have some dedicated professionals who make sure that when people are in our buses or on our campuses, they're as safe as possible. Two of those dedicated professionals are with us today. Matt Sanders, Senior Executive Director of Transportation, and Jason Wheeler, the Senior Executive Director of Maintenance. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and Jason, you used to be over technology, right?
Infrastructure and technology, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you've got your hands full. You're still doing that, right?
I am currently.
Okay.
Yep, dual role.
Well, we are going to limit the discussion to just taking care of the buildings and prepping things for bad weather situations. We're recording this shortly after a couple of very eventful weather days. One, we started off basically thinking, it's going to be a lot of snow. And I saw one forecast that was like 16 inches or something crazy like that. And then it settled down, and we ended up with about 4 inches. And then I think it was maybe a week and a half later, we got another forecast of, we're going to have some big snow. And then that turned out to be nothing here in Cobb, basically, right. Maybe an ice patch or two. So those decisions on when students and staff go into the schools, that's not the sort of thing you guys are involved with, right?
That's the superintendent's decision.
What is your role, each of your department's roles, relating to his decision-making? Are you involved in gathering information about each of the sites? Because we got 112 schools, right?
Yes, sir. 120 plus facilities, so that's for students and staff.
Okay.
We're involved with that. As far as our chief will reach out to us and ask how things are going and what things look like. At that point, we'll check from the maintenance side and technology side. We'll check for network infrastructure, if it's working, if our network's up and running. With that, ALC is online, which monitors our heat in all the schools and facilities.
Oh, okay. So you've got sensors out there, like smart thermostats and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir. So we can tell the temperature in every classroom and every hallway and every building in the Cobb County School District. So we check all that, make sure that's all up and running and working, and then once that's checked on the interior, so we've got network, we've got heat in the buildings, then we make sure that the exterior of the building, sidewalks and parking lots are safe for students and staff to report.
I'm sure the maintenance guys are out looking for those slip and fall opportunities.
Yeah, so we go back to the snow that we did receive last week. It didn't come in until Friday, and Friday morning, Sunday morning, the maintenance guys all reported, I say all, probably half of the maintenance staff, 60 plus guys reported Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, and half of those guys worked all the way through until 9:30 the next morning. So they worked a 27-hour shift clearing parking lots and sidewalks just to get that done. So we had salt trucks out there salting the parking lots that didn't receive any sunlight. So if they were shady areas, they had to be salted. We had skid steers and mini excavators out there running, clearing the ice and snow, salting the stairs to portables and ramps to portables, clearing the bus lanes.
I can imagine from the transportation side, it's just as in depth. You got a lot of streets and parking lots to be aware of and know what their status is. Does your team?
If it's an event that occurs overnight, those surprise events where you wake up next morning and there's snow all over the ground that you didn't think was coming, we'll have people on the road at 3:30 in the morning checking the roads.
Okay.
Versus where school's been closed for 2 or 3 days, we're going back to school on this day, bus drivers will report at 5 a.m.
Okay.
just to make sure the bus is cranked, warm, and on time.
I think a lot of our listeners or viewers don't realize how big the Cobb Schools transportation system is. How many buses do you guys operate?
1,020 buses are in our inventory right now.
Wow. And MARTA is what, 800?
Yeah, yeah, they're between 800 and 900.
That's
so.
incredible.
Yeah.
So going back to the buses, you guys essentially pre-position to, what does that benefit you in doing that way?
When it's not bad weather, we may have buses parked at 30 schools.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of them will park at their elementary school and run their routes right in that area.
Sure.
Well, I don't have that many mechanics to work on buses that don't start. So when we consolidate and park all the buses in 9 locations, I have enough mechanics to send out there and get the buses started so that we can run on time.
Okay. Well, that's kind of important. And the buses operate primarily on diesel. Do we have any that don't?
Majority of our buses are diesel, which are not cold friendly whatsoever. We have some gasoline buses, and we have been increasing our propane fleet.
Oh, okay.
The gasoline and propane will start just like your car will.
Yeah.
But the diesels is the problem.
That's a real challenge.
Yeah, they're real cold nature.
Yeah, and I know that one of the reasons diesel used to be preferred is because the price was so much lower than regular gas. I don't know what that's like nowadays, but I mean, any insights on that?
Yeah, it's upside down now.
Is it really?
Yeah, diesel is more expensive than gasoline and propane. So,
wow, that's amazing the times we live in. We'll put it that way.
Exactly.
All right. So, Jason, just a minute ago, you were saying you guys check all these various things. What are the different systems in a building that, I mean, you told us about like hallway temperatures and stuff just to make sure the HVAC, primarily in this season, the heating is working right.
So when we're walking the buildings, making sure that the heat, we can look remotely and check the heat, but we have to go to the buildings physically and walk to make sure there hadn't been any roof leaks, any frozen pipes are busted, and ceiling tiles or fell in or anything of that nature. So that's all having to walk every school and look in every classroom just to make sure that we're good. And usually that kind of stuff comes from, like you said, frozen pipes, or there could be snow accumulation on a roof, which caused a leak there and came through the roof and through the ceiling. So we check for all that stuff just to make sure schools are ready for students to enter the building.
And ice is no friend to any structure.
No, sir.
Right?
That's 100% sure. And usually the ice stuff for water pipes we don't find till days later. Water lines freeze and they stay froze, and everything else could be gone. And then finally, when the water lines thaw out, then we find the leaks.
Then they let you know.
Then they let us know for sure.
So we mentioned, I think in your case, you were talking about school district buildings that aren't just schools. We've got support buildings,
That's
maintenance
correct.
facilities, and that sort of thing. You said 120 locations?
120 plus locations.
Okay.
You know, with all of our public safety, our data centers, our Kennesaw warehouse, our admin buildings for like adult ed and things of that nature.
Okay. Now, we've kind of been focusing on the weather we've experienced lately, but there's other stuff to consider as well. Like in the open, I was talking about the potential for thunderstorms and high winds and that sort of thing. How does that affect your decision-making on running the buses?
Believe it or not, there are guidelines that tell us a bus shouldn't operate if sustained winds are greater than 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
And so we look at sustained winds, which is primarily a problem in thunderstorms.
Okay.
And if we get in that situation, we do a ground stop.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, stop. Take shelter.
And all that takes is one location to report those high winds?
Well, in spring weather is one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
Because we may have a huge thunderstorm going on in the south part of the county, sunshine in the north part of the county. So we may actually suspend service in the south part of the county until the storm passes. but continue normal operations in the north.
Okay.
So,
So in that case, it's just a matter of a little bit of a delay, right,
correct.
until the storm passes. Whereas in the case of the superintendent saying, no, we're not going to have school today because of ice and snow, you have to shut down the entire district in that situation, right? I think academically they say that's the case. So what about on the maintenance side? Do thunderstorms, I mean, I can imagine the technology aspect, which is not part of maintenance technically, but...
Yeah, so well, with thunderstorms comes, high winds and lightning. Lightning takes power out. Trees fall. That takes out power and network. So there's a lot of variables that come with that. So we just have to monitor all systems remotely at that point. If we see a network or something go down, then we have to be on scene to find out why, whether a tree fell on it or lightning hit and took out a UPS or something like that. So
yeah, so there are a lot of variables that it could be a number of things that are causing a power outage.
Yes,
I remember the other day, a driver ran into a telephone pole.
Yes, sir.
I think
the pole was broke from the car wreck, and when Georgia Power replaced the pole, the fiber was damaged, which took down the network on the south side. So half the schools in the district had no network because of that accident.
Wow, just that one telephone pole knocked out
Yes, sir.
all of that communication. Wow. And transportation-wise, how does that impact you guys?
well, I actually found out about the accident before I knew there was no power at school because we got notice from Cobb PD and Cobb DOT, bad accident, power lines down, roads closed. And the first thing we think is, okay, we've got to reroute the buses.
Yeah.
Then I get a call, there's no power at school. So we're thinking, okay, if they don't get power restored, we've got to take these students to a different location. So we start thinking about all of that.
Sure.
So we work more closely together than people think we do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah. Yes,
one incident can affect everybody. And a lot of people don't realize that if power's out for too long, it gets really cold in those buildings.
Yes.
That's right.
And then students aren't very happy. Nobody's happy at that point. So if the event plays out as you're expecting, that's one thing. But what do you do if you have a circumstance where you got one forecast that, everybody's like, okay, it's going to be such and such an event, and then it doesn't play out that way? So, for example, one thing that comes to my mind is I think it was 2009, there was a rain event. We knew we were going to get a lot of rain, but nobody thought, holy cow, this thing is going to be a 500-year flood event. That's got to be unnerving in both of your cases, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how would you respond if it's obvious water's coming up?
We've got to get people on site immediately to the schools that are in those affected areas. As you're bringing water, like Clarkdale Elementary School was one of the schools that was affected by that. We have to get power shut off to the building. As water rises into the building, you can't have electricity on it, which means you got to shut the network down. Heating and air has to be shut down. We have to get students out of the building, which then leads to Matt having to, on the spot, get transportation involved.
A lot of coordination.
There's a lot of coordination in an event like that.
And then in your case, your drivers aren't trained to drive through deep water. I mean, it can really become troublesome fast, right?
In that particular instance, the school actually reached out directly to their point of contact before they contacted any of us, which they should do. Okay. Because that enabled our people who were on the ground to get buses rolling before, I got to call the executive director and tell him what's going on and check with him. Yeah. No, it don't work like that.
So they have some degree of autonomy. You hire well and trust their judgment to keep everybody safe.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine time was very tight back then. and another instance, I remember a snowstorm where they had forecast, we're going to have some flurries in the afternoon. Nice, delightful flurries. And before, I think it was by 11 o'clock, traffic around our office was just jam-packed, and people were, didn't get home for a day or two. I don't know that you can plan for every little detail like that, but do you guys try to scope out those kind of exceptions and figure out, okay, well, what should we do?
Right. And I think depending on what it is a major factor. It's a flood. Okay, we can still drive. We can still get around, get the kids on the buses and
Right.
we can go somewhere. But the storm you're talking about is like, well, you got everybody on the bus is running, they're warm, but the bus is not going anywhere,
Right.
because everybody was stuck in traffic. So
Right.
it's a certain amount of, best plans you have sometimes don't work out the way you
Yeah.
think they should, and you just have to punt and get everybody where they need to be
Yeah.
as quickly as you can and safely.
Immediate
So,
life
yeah.
safety
Right.
thing at that point. I can imagine if you're a bus driver and you see a tornado ahead, you're not going to go, well, kids, hold on tight. You're going to have some direction to the kids. We're pulling over. Everybody, go over here where there's some shelter or what have you, right?
In that situation, tornadoes, we have locations identified on every route. Maybe a fire station, another school, churches,
Yeah.
so that, it's a bad storm. It's a fire station.
So you've got like points of refuge along each route?
Yes.
That is incredibly forward-looking. That's amazing. We've got some of the best people on the planet running this place, and these are a couple of them. So, what else can you do in the circumstance of the unknown? You can't plan for every little thing. Sounds like you've thought through a lot of them, but what else could possibly be done in the case of maintenance? You don't know what's going to fail and what's going to do well.
No, you just got to have people spread out across the county, and which we do working their normal routes, day in and day out. With 166 people in maintenance, there's somebody at every school just about every day, all the time. So in the event of something like that, whether it's your trade or not, you're there to help do whatever you can to resolve any issue that pops up. So, we've got a lot of professional guys that are certain trades that they work in, whether it's HVAC or plumbing or electrical, but in the event of an emergency or something that pops up like that, if it's not their trade-specific job, they're still helping anything they can do for the schools.
If nothing else, they can run materials to you.
That's exactly right. So it's just all hands on deck in those situations.
Yeah. What about you guys? I mean, that's on the cold days in the afternoons, let's say, and the buses normally are parked. You just keep things going?
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of choice.
Yeah.
We have to keep going until we get the students home. Our bus drivers are extremely dedicated. They will work as late as they have to.
I'm glad you said that, because I remember that big snowfall event, hearing about bus drivers doing that very thing, and cafeteria people too. They would be able to perhaps get the kids back to their school. Cafeteria people would stay and fix pizzas for everybody to make sure the kids had something to eat. So we've got good folks,
right.
Good folks. And I think that's probably where it all starts, really. So what would you say, I'm thinking about the parents who might be watching or listening, what would you say to parents who get extremely nervous about their child going to school on a snow day, or the winds are whipping up and it looks stormy, and they're coming home on the afternoon bus? What would you tell them that would help them understand that their child is well taken care of?
We have a plan that works. Without a doubt, if a student gets on our bus, we're going to do everything we can to ensure their safety above all else.
Okay, safety is number one in transportation. What about maintenance? You guys?
I would say that safety is number one district-wide. Any department. I think Cobb County School District's number one priority is student safety overall. And then outside of that, we've got one of the best communication departments there is. They keep the students and staff and parents and public informed of everything that's going on at all times, no matter what kind of event we're having. So I would just say that, a lot of us are parents too, and we're going to take care of your kids just like they were ours. So.
And in the event of transportation, you guys also have an app, right?
Yes, here comes the bus. And anytime a bus is running late, we send out that notification, bus 1234 is running 20 minutes late, so that parents will know, or the student themselves. Students can download the app and use it.
Okay.
And be aware that, okay, my bus isn't here, but it's coming. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes late today.
And that's important to know if it's one of those really cold mornings. We're still going to school. Should the kid be waiting at the bus stop for an hour? Probably not if it's that cold. Of course, they need to be dressed warmly to begin with, but standing outside for an hour is not good. But if you got that app, you can see, it's delayed by a half hour, so I'll wait a little extra time before actually sending my child
Correct.
out.
And the app actually, in addition to getting a notification, written notification, you can actually see your bus on the map.
Okay.
And know when it's approaching.
So you know it's just around the corner.
Right.
But don't wait until you see it there.
Correct.
Because then you're going to be hoofing it, and it's actually delayed a little bit, probably. I won't ask you to comment. That gets into a security thing.
That's a technology thing.
It's his fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff is delayed.
All right. I'm sure that having all of the resources necessary to stay informed directly by Cobb Schools is important, even better when you've got it direct from the department. And staying away from the rumor mill probably would serve them well. Thanks again. I appreciate you letting us know these things. If you learned something new from this episode, please give us a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening to this edition of The Inside Scoop, a podcast produced by the Cobb County School District.